Hey y'all, what's up? This your girl and I'm back with another podcast episode. Now today is going to be a little different because I've been in the Bible a little more than I usually am, and I'm reading certain characters, and I'm finally seeing I'm seeing why life is happening to me, how it's happening, and the beauty of the test and the beauty of the lessons that God is giving, learning and growing and evolving in these lessons instead of seeing them as losses and hardships, and actually seeing them as tests that are building me up to the next level, and then the next level, and then the next level. It's amazing. So I was reading 1st and 2nd Samuel, and that was dealing with Samuel and with Saul and with David, and so much happened in that moment. In just those two books, something happened. Those two stories, something happened. A lot happened, but I saw me in so much of it. Like when we get back into Samuel appointed the first king over the Israelites, over the people. He appointed the first king, and it was Saul. And see, that's how Saul and David are tied in together, because David was going to be the king to come after Saul. But that's not how it looked from the beginning. You got to watch it from the beginning, how the story builds. David was just a one who watched the sheep. See, he was looked at like he wasn't, that was his job. You just tend to the sheep. But see, while he was out there tending to the sheep alone, they didn't know that God was testing him. They didn't understand that God was building him for a moment that would change his life forever. They didn't know that his faith was being he was being molded. When you are left alone to tend sheep, all you have is time. You're with nature. That means you're with God. He had a chance to really have that one-on-one interaction with God every day. Every single day. And see, God was testing him because they didn't know that he had fought a lion. They didn't know that he had fought animals out there and killed them with their bare hands. They didn't know the strength that he held. God knew, though. God knew. And see, when they went to look for David, they wanted one of Jesse's boys. They didn't know which one. And when I read through it, it's kind of like Jesse didn't really know either. He didn't know just how powerful of a son he had. That's what I mean by God hiding you in plain sight sometimes. God knows your power. God knows your might. God knows that fight that you have within you. And sometimes we go through the hard times, the trials that we call them, the rock bottoms. We go through that so we can really build that foundation of strength, so we can learn, so we can know that it is time to dig. It is time to push. It is time to learn and evolve for just this moment here. When God calls you into that, he needs you into that place. When God is saying it's your time now, you got to be ready. So it's the buildup that we be going through that we don't pay attention to. And it's important that we pay attention to the buildup. So when they got David and David came down to the battle, they finally got the right one. He come down to the battle. They wanted to know who is looking after the sheep. God is. That's who God is, just like he watched over David. That's who tended to the sheep. But David paid him no mind. So what's up? What's going on? Then when they told him what they were up against, it's almost like he could hear the fear in them. He could hear the fear in them. They was like, I'll do it. I'll fight him. And then they were trying to tell him he wasn't ready for the war. You're not ready for this battle. He said, you don't even know what I've been doing. You don't even know what God has tested me. You don't know my story. You just know of me. Let me show you what I can do with God in my life. Let me show you what I can do with faith. Let me show you. Give me 5 stones. 5 stones. Just 5 of them. I don't need much. Now, David was 6'9". Goliath was 9'9". That's already a challenge. Do you hear me? That's why it goes so good when you say nothing is too big for God. Nothing is too big for God. So they try to put David in all this armor, and he puts it on, and he's like, this is too heavy for me. See, they didn't know that David already had on the full armor of God. They didn't know that David had already had his shield of protection around him because he had faith. No, you got to take this off of me. I can't fight him in what y'all are fighting in. I got to fight him in my own way. I have to fight him with big faith. I have to know that God brought me to this war so I can defeat it. God's not going to send you to a war that you cannot win. If you read the scripture, every time David went to war, they would pray about it, and God's like, yes, you're going to defeat him. Wait, listen for me good. Listen for me good. David been listening. Been listening. So he goes out there and he takes a stone and he hits Goliath and he kills him. Kills him. Now what he does next, that's when you know I stand about my business. He went up to him and he cut his head off. Yeah. I'm about my Father's business. And see, God had already designed him to be that warrior, to have that fight in him, to be that protector. God had already had him. See, God goes ahead. God went ahead already. And David began to fight wars, with Saul, and fight wars. And David was killing more men. He was doing more. Saul 1,000, David 10,000. That's a problem for Saul, huh? That's like that. That's that energy of being jealous. See, sometimes when you're working with God, you got to understand that the battles are going to come. That's like in life. The battles are going to come. But don't ever think you're not equipped for the war. You're equipped for it. Stay ready so you don't ever have to get ready. We're equipped for the war. So Saul's heart changed towards David. Some people feel a little envious, but everything happens with purpose. Stay with me. We going somewhere. Stay with me. So David ran. After all these wars he fought for Saul and killed and helped his country, he ran. Even though he knew he could defeat him. He knew he could defeat Saul. He ran. Saul pursued him. He still ran. He didn't have one encounter where he could kill Saul. He had 2. Now you got to read it. You got to read it to feel it in the spirit. But what I'm saying is, when you stay focused on God's mission, and you know the bond that you have created with God and the promise that God has made with you, you walk it out. You trust God. You have faith that it's all going to work out. You just keep walking and you keep keeping your heart pure, and you do what God called you to do and not what you think you should do. You do what God says to do and not what you want to do. You move towards God's will and not your own. If you haven't read about David, you should, because I'm not going to go too deep into it, but what I would tell you is, when I place myself in the role of David, I understood so much. Even towards the end, and the things that he went through and things that happened, when you read about it, you'll really see you'll just see God in it. You'll see yourself in it. And it'll make sense that everything that's happening to you happens with purpose. God has already went ahead and taken care of it. So why not build that relationship? Because you're already connected to him. So why not just come to him and just build a relationship? And that's what I had to do. I had to come to him. Simply by just saying, Lord, I need you. I love you. I can't do this thing that they call life without you. I need you now, I need you here, and I need you forevermore. Because I know you're the type that goes ahead. I love y'all so much. Y'all make sure you keep pushing. Keep fighting. If you're listening to these podcast episodes, that means you are searching for yourself and you're searching for God. This is just the introduction. Go to him. I'm just the lady at the gates. I can't do nothing but open the gate when God tells me to open the gate. But you can open the gate anytime you're ready to open that gate with him. He's waiting on you. Pray for me, y'all. Don't pray on me. And if you're praying on me, I'm still praying for you, because it's going to always be love. This your girl Cole, and I'm signing out. Sending y'all nothing but love and light. Bye.